So this slightly over the top and unnecessarily long infographic has actually been responsible for just shy of $100 million in reported and documented revenue for myself and the clients that I've taught it to. This is really, really awesome, and it's something I've been developing and perfecting over the course of the last few years. It is a presentation framework that is designed for a webinar, but the strategies within you can also adapt for other sales funnel strategies as well. And what I'm going to do in today's video is literally break this down for you step by step. If you want to have a successful, profitable webinar presentation that drives more business into your company and lands you more clients while actually doing most of the heavy lifting for you, then stick around in today's video because I'm going to switch to my laptop now and break it all down for you step by step. So first things first, let me explain how this whole thing was even created and where it came from. I have a marketing education company, and we help coaches and experts and course creators to generate more clients online. And I started this education business many years ago when I was struggling to grow my business, and I was looking for help in this area. You know, how do you go about building a funnel that says and does all the right things and leads someone to want to become a client and work with you? And I went through quite literally years of trial and error, and nothing was working. And I stumbled upon, back in 2014, we're talking such a long time ago now, I stumbled upon webinars. And back then it was this new hot topic, and I jumped on the bandwagon and gave it a good go. And I started to have some great success. In fact, my first ever course went on to earn $1 million in revenue, and it was off the back of a webinar. And then I really understood this game and got quite good at this webinar stuff. And my second course went on to do $3 million in sales. And I since then launched my coaching company that we have now. And that company alone has done over $10 million in sales. And with everything that I've done, it's been 25 million. And it's off the back of this blueprint. At first, I was just piecing things together and testing and tweaking and trying stuff. And it's gotten to a point now where it is a full blueprint. I'm talking, if you want to create a webinar, you literally just do this, and this, and do it in this order, and you'll have a fantastic presentation. And that's what I'm going to teach you here today. If you want to follow along, this blueprint is my free gift to you. There's a link in the description box. Go ahead and click on that right now, and then you can download this blueprint and even have it open on your laptop and follow along while I teach this to you. So click that link, grab it, and let's dive straight in. So here's the blueprint that you'll have access to in just a moment. And I'm going to walk you through some of the bigger pillars of this. We're going to do more of a 40,000 foot view, and then maybe, if you want me to, you can let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a deeper dive and go even more granular with some of these things. So firstly, it's called the high ticket webinar framework because this is designed and works the best for selling high ticket stuff out the other end. What does that mean? Well, it means selling something that's worthy of a phone conversation, right? We're not selling $50 programs off the back of our webinar or $500 programs off the back of our webinar. You know, we're going to be selling $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 programs, and we're going to be doing that by having a webinar presentation that positions us correctly and provides value in the right way. But then out the other end, the call to action is to book a call. But if you do this right, and you say and do all the things I'm going to tell you to do, then you should end up with people at the end of the webinar who are excited about you, excited about your topic, and are pre-sold to want to work with you, and it makes those conversations so much easier. So let's talk firstly about the length. You can see it here on the document. It's about 40 minutes is what we're shooting for with a presentation like this. And I've tried so many different lengths of time, and I find that if we go anything shorter, if we do 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, we're not quite getting everything done, right? We need to tell some stories in here, we need to provide some value, we need to position certain things, and you just can't quite get it done in a shorter time frame. But furthermore, if we go longer than 40 minutes, if we start going to 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, that has proved itself to be somewhat unnecessary, right? 40 minutes is just the right amount of time to get done what we need in the shortest amount of time possible. And the reality is, if you try to make them longer, you're just giving yourself more work, right? It's going to take longer, you're going to need more slides and more preparation. 40 minutes, perfect. And then as you can see, as we go down this blueprint, I've literally mapped out for you where your presentation should start, the first section, which is called setting the stage, which we'll come back to in just a moment. We've got all the things that you should be doing in the setting of the stage that leads to section 2, and this is where we provide some value in the content, and then everything you need to do in there all the way down to section 3, which is the call to action, everything you need to do there until you get to the end. So you can see we've put a lot of time into this blueprint, and it's plug and play. Many of our clients decide to print this out, put it on their wall, and when they're planning their next webinar presentation, they're just mapping it out from this blueprint. So I might suggest that you do the same thing. So let's come back to section 1, and it's called setting the stage, and it's the first 10 minutes of your presentation, and it's all about setting the stage. We need to make sure that your viewers know that they're in the right place at the right time, listening to the right person, and we need them to stick around. A big mistake that I see people making with webinars is they assume that just because someone registered for your webinar and just because they showed up, that they must be committed to stick around the whole time. And that's not true. Some people have impulsively registered for your webinar because they saw it on social media and thought, yeah, do you know what, I'll register for that thing and let me check it out. And then they just so happened to be at their email inbox when your reminder email came in, and they clicked on the link and they jumped into the webinar room because they thought, let me just see what this is all about. Let me see if it's something that I'm interested in. So they are heavily judging the first 2 to 5 minutes of your presentation to decide if they want to stick around. So if you assume that they're absolutely going to stick around regardless, then you're going to be disappointed because you're going to dive too quickly into talking about yourself and your story, not realizing that the viewer doesn't really care about that. They don't want to hear about you. They don't want to hear about your story yet. They want to know what is in this for them. They've registered for this webinar and they've shown up because they have a problem that needs solving. And your webinar and the hook of your webinar most likely promised that you're going to teach them some cool stuff. So they're here for them. So what we need to do in the first 10 minutes is set the stage, frame the webinar, hook them in, and make sure that they understand that they need to stick around. That is section 1. And so I'll talk about a couple of these things as we go through the blueprint here. We won't touch on all of them, but let's look at, for example, we've got the big hook and we've got the tease. So the big hook is we're going to dive straight into what is the big main headline of the webinar. What was it that grabbed their attention? And so now let's double down on that when they first arrive so that they know they're in the right place. We move to the tease, where we're going to tease them with a 40,000-foot view of what we're going to be covering today. We're not going to go into it yet, but we're just going to start to tease them with it. Here's what we're going to be covering today. This, and this. And then there's loads of other things down here, like telling your story and relating to them and demonstrating that you understand them. And I've got these things called without statements that are really powerful, and teasing them with the end result, maybe success stories if you've got them. I've got a few things down here. They're all explained on the document as to what they're designed to do. But everything there is strategically in place so that from the moment they arrive to about 10 minutes in, they are hyped up, they are excited. They know that they're in the right place. And you might say, John, 10 minutes seems like a long time. Are they not just going to sense what's happening, that you're not providing any value yet and you're simply just trying to get them to stick around? And it's not the case. If you do this in the way that I've described here on the document, then you'll actually have a great presentation. 10 minutes in, they'll be feeling like super fired up, super excited, pleased that they're here and ready to learn more. All right, which actually leads us to section 2, because section 2 is where you provide the value. And we're going to go for about 20 minutes on this. And you don't need much more than that. And you certainly don't want to be shorter than that. 20 minutes is perfect to provide some value, have the law of reciprocity kick in some way, shape or form. But the most important part here is that you provide value in the right way. And this is key. Let me tell you what it is. You see where it says, Section 2, wow, not how content. What the heck is wow, not how? This is a concept that I've been teaching my clients for a number of years now, and it is so imperative that you understand this and implement this. Let me first explain the big mistake that people make, and then I'll tell you what the wow, not how solves and how it solves it. The big mistake people make is that they only focus on this concept of the law of reciprocity, which is if you just give and give and give and give and give, then that person is going to feel compelled on their own accord to reciprocate the value that they're receiving by providing value back the other way. And the idea here in business is that the more we give to a potential prospect up front, the more they'll feel compelled to give back in the form of money by joining our coaching programs and being involved in our business. But it's not actually that simple. It's not as simple as just go overboard on the value and they will absolutely lean back in and become a client. In fact, the opposite can happen, unfortunately, if you do this wrong. What can happen is you give and give and give and give and give, so much so that the prospect says, that's amazing value, thank you so much. I feel like I've got what I need to go and give this a go. So I know that your coaching is available and I might think about it later on down the track. But for right now, I feel I've got what I need, so I'm going to go in this direction. So you actually end up sending them away from you as opposed to drawing you in. I first learnt this from a guy called Jay Abraham, who said once that you're actually doing yourself and your potential client a disservice if you try to teach too much before the sale. And what he went on to say was that you're doing your prospect a disservice because in a short period of time, you're trying to teach your entire concept, right? Like what you help clients with is so much bigger than a 20-minute section of content. You can't possibly teach everything in 20 minutes. And so he's pointing out that you leave your prospects with a false sense of security because they go, that's great, love that, I'm gonna go and give that a go, I think I've got what I need. And then of course they go, try to implement it, they get stuck, there's gaps in their knowledge, and now they actually have a sour taste in their mouth subconsciously. So they won't come back to you because they have got this subtle disappointment in their head from the first encounter that they had with you. And at the same time, you're doing yourself a disservice because of course you've sent your prospect off the other way. And so you are not generating revenue in the business. So how do we solve it? We solve it with something called the wow, not the how. The idea here is that we're providing value still, but in a slightly different way. Instead of providing value in a way where we say, here's exactly how to do something, now would you like me to help you to do it, right? Instead of doing that, we're saying, I'm going to wow you with my content. I want the prospect who's on the webinar with me saying, wow, that's exciting. Wow, that makes sense. Wow, that was a real epiphany. Wow, I've had a paradigm shift. Wow, I did not know that before. You have opened my eyes to something that I didn't already know. And when you do this correctly, you will have people still feeling that sense of receiving value from you, but they're leaning into you now as opposed to leaning out. I first experimented with this many years ago. This would have been around about 2014 when I first started experimenting with webinars, and I was making that big mistake. I was teaching all the how-to material and then expecting to get some clients at the end, and everyone was saying, thanks so much, this is an amazing presentation and I've got what I need. So then I switched all of my content and I switched it to wow-based content instead of how-based content. Sure enough, I asked my audience at the end, how many of you have received, a ton of value and you're super excited? And the chat box went crazy. Everyone was saying, yes, this is amazing, best webinar I've ever been on, right? But now, what's the logical next step? It's to work with me. If I give people the how-based content, then they can go try by themselves. If I focus on wow-based content, well, now they're going, wow, that's awesome, and I want more, and they lean in instead. So it does take some time to wrap your head around this, and of course I've got some prompts and some help here on the blueprint, but the reality is, shameless plug, if you really want to take this seriously and you are in a position right now where you need more clients for your coaching or expert business in some way, shape or form, and you want a marketing system like a webinar like this to be set up, automated and running for you day and night, getting you clients, then you may wish to invest in getting some help to do it properly, and I'd love to be able to help you to do that. It's something that me and my team offer. There'll be a link in the description box and you can go ahead and click that, and there's some more information about what it might look like to work with us, to get our help and explore that. So, this wow not how concept, so powerful, but I do want to give a disclaimer that it does take some time to figure this out, and it might be time that you don't want to invest. You'd rather just take the shortcuts and get our help to do so. But it's here on the document and you can attempt to dissect this. But I'll give you a quick 40,000 foot view. I like to break up my content into 4 training portions. And I like to do it in 4 because, quite frankly, then means I've got 5 minutes on each piece. And 5 minutes of value on 4 different topics, that's not really that hard. You know, if you're truly an expert in your chosen field, then picking 4 parts of what you do and structuring a 5-minute content piece for each that is focused on wow-based content, it becomes quite easy when you've got this structure. So 4 training points, and one thing I would like to point out is that each of the 4 training points should build on the previous, right? You make your first big discovery and you share it with your audience, and then you share your second big discovery and you builds on the first one, and so on and so forth, all right? So that's 20 minutes of content. So at this point, we're 30 minutes into your webinar. You've spent 10 minutes setting the stage, and now you've hooked the right people, and you've spent 20 minutes providing some value with wow-based content. And the final piece here is section 3, the call to action. And this is 10 minutes. And all we're really doing here is giving our audience the opportunity to book a call with us and see if we can help. And you might say, well, John, why do we need 10 minutes for that, right? Surely that's just like a 60-second thing. Point them to the link, just like you did a moment ago, John, right? But when you're doing it in the context of a webinar, it needs to be built out. There needs to be a strategy behind that invitation. And there's a few things that you'll see as we go down here. And again, just as I've done previously, I'll give you a couple of introductions to some of these steps. So for example, inspire change. Before I give an invitation to book a call, I want to inspire my audience that now is the time to make a change. Maybe they've heard presentations like this before. Maybe they've been on similar webinars and decided not to take action. Well, maybe today's the day, and I'm going to inspire them to make that change. And I'm going to follow on from that by presenting a crossroads, right? That, you know, they've got to the end of this webinar now and they do have a decision to make. Are they going to leave and go back to what they were doing before, or are they going to go down this path of learning something new and exploring how this might change their life? And so I'm presenting that crossroads. And, you know, I'm going to make the invitation to book a call with me, but I'm going to make it very clear what's going to happen on that call. I'm going to tease my offer. I might share some client results, and then I'm going to give them an opportunity to book that call. And so there's just really, you're just building up to the book a call invitation, so they realize that this is something special, that it's a special opportunity, and that they should really capitalize on this while they have the opportunity to do so. And like I said, as we get to the bottom of the blueprint here, you can see that gets us to the end, that gets us to the finish line. And I've also attached down here a 1-page summary of everything in there, all the steps needed. And of course, you know, you can get access to that by clicking the link below. I'd like to ask you a question at this point. If this is interesting to you and you're enjoying this content, drop me a comment on YouTube right now and let me know whether you would like a more extended version, because if there's enough interest in this, I'm very happy to do a rerun of this training, and I'll spend twice, even 3 times as long, and I'll go through every single step as if I'm teaching and training one of my clients. If that would be of interest to you, let me know in the comments, and if I get enough, then perhaps I'll do it. But for now, I hope this was helpful for you. Don't forget to click the link in the description box and grab your copy of the blueprint. It's my free gift to you. And if you want to explore working with me and my team and getting our help on doing this, then there's a link to a video up here that you can go ahead and click on, and I'll just explain a bit more about how that works and how we can help. So thanks for watching the video today. I hope that was valuable, and I'll see you in the next one.